There are moments when faith feels like fog, when the prayers feel empty, the worship feels flat, and God's presence seems more like a memory than a reality. You reach out, hoping to sense something, anything, but all you feel is quiet. You start to wonder, did I drift too far? Did I mess something up? Why can't I feel him like before? It's a lonely place, that space between believing and feeling, and it makes you question everything, not because you don't love God, but because you miss him. The connection feels cold, and the silence stretches longer than your strength. But here's what's true. Even when your heart feels numb, God hasn't gone anywhere. Your emotions may waver, but his presence doesn't. You may feel distant, but he's never stopped being near. We're taught to associate God with emotion, the chills during worship, the tears in prayer, the overwhelming peace. And while those moments are real, they're not the measure of his presence. Sometimes, the deepest work God does in you happens when you feel the least. Faith isn't always fire. Sometimes it's endurance. Quiet, stubborn, unseen endurance. Just because you can't feel him doesn't mean he's not working. Think of roots growing underground. No one sees them, but they're holding everything together. That's what God's doing now. Holding you, steadying you, drawing you deeper, not through feeling, but through trust. He's not testing you to break you. He's anchoring your faith in something stronger than emotion. Because when the feelings fade and the surface goes still, what's left is real relationship, the kind that doesn't disappear when the silence comes. You might think you're the only one who's felt this way, like you're walking through your faith on autopilot while your soul whispers, "Where did God go?" But you're not alone. Some of the most faithful people in Scripture felt the same distance. David cried, "Why have you hidden your face from me?" Job sat in ashes, begging for a word. Even Jesus, in his final hours, cried out, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" Feeling far from God doesn't make you broken. It makes you human. And God isn't offended by your ache. He understands it. He steps into it. The very absence you feel is often the very place he's doing his deepest, most personal work. Not out loud, not in the spotlight, but in the stillness, where your roots grow and your faith becomes unshakable. So don't give up. Don't walk away. He's still here, even if you can't feel him, especially then. If you feel God's whisper today, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell to hear more. There's a lie that creeps in when God feels distant, the lie that says, "If I don't feel him, he must have left." But distance in feeling is not distance in truth. God's presence isn't measured by your mood or your ability to sense him. It's measured by his promise, and he promised this: "I will never leave you nor forsake you." That means even when your heart is numb, your prayers feel dry, and your faith feels like it's hanging on by a thread, he's still right there, closer than your doubt, closer than your confusion. And not just watching, walking with you. You may not see the path forward, but He's lighting it one quiet step at a time. You may not feel held, but you're not falling. You're being carried. Sometimes the greatest proof of His nearness isn't in the feeling. It's in the fact that you're still here, still breathing, still holding on. That's Him. When the feelings fade, it's tempting to think the relationship is broken. But love, real love, goes deeper than emotion. God's love for you isn't fragile. It doesn't depend on your ability to feel it. He's not drawing near only when you're on fire spiritually. He's with you when you're numb, when you're unsure, when your prayers sound more like silence than speech. This isn't the end of your connection with God. It's a different chapter, one where you learn to walk by faith, not by feeling, one where trust becomes your anchor, not your emotions. And in this chapter, God isn't stepping away from you. He's inviting you closer, not with loud signs, but with quiet presence. The kind of closeness that stays when the music stops. The kind that holds you through dry seasons and reminds you you're still His, even when you can't sense it. Don't confuse silence with absence. Don't mistake stillness for abandonment. God isn't waiting for you to get it together before He shows up again. He's already in the middle of what you're walking through. And while you may not feel Him, you can still follow Him. Sometimes that means showing up in prayer, even when it feels like nothing's happening. Sometimes it means opening Scripture, not for a rush of inspiration, but just to be reminded that He still speaks. And sometimes it means simply breathing, staying, refusing to walk away when your heart says, "What's the point?" That's not weakness. That's devotion. That's what it looks like to love God not for what you feel, but for who He is. And who He is hasn't changed. The same God who met you in your joy is holding you in this dry season too. Quietly, patiently, faithfully. You may not see it yet, but something sacred is happening in this silence. You're learning that God's presence isn't a performance, it's a promise. That He doesn't come and go based on your passion, your perfection, or your perception. He comes because He loves, and love stays. You're also learning to let go of the pressure to feel spiritual all the time. Real faith isn't loud. Sometimes it's a whisper that says, "I'm still here, God, even if I can't hear you right now." That whisper matters. It's worship in the dark. It's obedience in the unknown. And God honors that kind of faith deeply. The kind that keeps walking without signs. The kind that trusts without tingles. That's when your relationship moves from surface to substance, from feelings to foundation. And that kind of faith, it changes everything, starting with you. This season might not feel spiritual. It might feel dry, disorienting, and even discouraging. But that doesn't mean it's without purpose. Some of the deepest growth happens in silence. Some of the most unshakable faith is formed in the dark. When you look back, you may realize God wasn't absent. He was anchoring you, teaching you to trust when you had no feelings to hold on to, showing you that His nearness is constant, even when your senses go quiet. You're not spiritually broken. You're being built for something deeper. So don't rush out of this season. Let it do what it came to do. Let it stretch your faith. Let it silence the lies. Let it remind you that God's presence is not a feeling. It's a fact. He's closer than you think. Closer than your doubt. Closer than your next breath. When was the last time you felt distant from God? And what did you learn about Him in that silence? Drop it in the comments. Your story might be the reminder someone else desperately needs.